Heckling fandom, every day is a half day if you just fucking leave. A quote from Antonio Brown. It's time for garbage time. Guys, welcome into Garbage Time Fantasy Football. This is a week where championships were decided, and I hope we have a few in the heckling fandom that got some. How are you doing tonight, Ron?
Doing good. I didn't have to worry about losing any championships because I didn't make any championships. So
what do you know? Me either. We're absolutely pathetic, though. We did have one host in championship tonight, and he's hoping for a miracle. His name is Ryan Warner, and he's hoping for a 19-point game from Deontay Johnson. Do you think he gets it?
That's a toss-up. That could go either way. Like, you're definitely not thrilled about needing 19 from Deontay Johnson.
No, and unfortunately hit the buzzsaw on the other side. That was Jamar Chase too. So absolutely rest in peace.
Yeah.
Conspiracy Slip says you have absolutely no chance tonight, Ryan. So good luck. Guys, if you happen to like what we offer on Garbage Time Fantasy Football, you can like and subscribe to the show here on YouTube. You can also listen to us on Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadios, TuneIn, and anywhere else you get podcasts to. You can also download our podcast at www.garbagetimeff.com. You can also leave us like and hate mails if we gave you shitty advice all year, which is kind of likely that we did. Ron's
right. Goes back and forth.
Yeah, kind of a little bit back and forth, like you just said. Also, if you happen to listen to us on Apple, we'd appreciate a 5-star review, as Ron kind of harps on every single week. That's right, 5-star. Anything you'd like to say before we get into these voicemails?
Nope.
All right, let's see what Christian's got for us, all right?
Let's do it.
Listen, you little shit. When I need something done, you drop whatever unimportant nonsense you're in the middle of, and you get it the done.
All right, let's see what Angry Christian has to say to us before we get into tonight's news.
All right, hold on as I
Bring it up
do all the things here.
All the magic.
All the magic.
Hey, you get number one heckling fan here. Joe, I am disappointed at the fact that you allowed us to believe that Antonio Brown would finish the season. He literally walked out halfway through a game. I blame you, Joe. You, traitor. You believed in him. And you made us believe in you and in him. You led us astray, Joe. That's on you. However, I do like the fact that Ron apparently picked him up and tried to trade him. So I just find it hysterical that he just screwed over Ron. But anyway, JJ, where is the countdown that you were supposed to have done before Christmas and then New Year's? And apparently now we're waiting until Martin Luther King Day for your butt to actually do your job, sir. Get it done. Or else. Christian, out.
Oh, my God.
It's always fun.
It's always great to hear from Christian. And if you guys want to scream at us like he does every single week on the voicemails, www.garbagetimeff.com, where you can leave the voicemails on the right. And what he was referring to there about the video is JJ's doing a top 10 video. It was supposed to be a Christmas video, then a New Year's video, and we're still waiting on it, but he'll eventually get to it. Perfection takes time, guys. It's a top 10 worst takes of Garbage Time Fantasy Football on the year. And the reason why Christian's so jaded in it is he left a 3-minute voicemail for the video that everybody will get to listen to too. So, the stars got to shine in the top 10 worst takes videos. Conspiracy Clips is still in his championship game tonight. He says, I am losing by .32, but I see it as a tie.
So, wait, is he still in it? It kind of seems like he lost, but he's counting it as a tie because it's only .32.
Well, if the other team had any players going tonight, I would bench them so there's no chance I got a negative and lost my championship. So, I mean, no,
Yeah, but-
it's not a tie. You still lost.
Yeah.
So sorry. Another person in the heckling fandom loses in the championship round. Good luck, Ryan. But we're not feeling it for you.
And yeah.
So let's get into that Antonio Brown thing before we get into the news, because Christian decided to bring that up. I was watching the Jets and Bucks game and hoping for an absolute miracle before Tom Brady absolutely ripped my heart out like he does every fucking time we play him. So we're up by 14, and I'm watching the game on my phone, and all of a sudden I see on the sideline Antonio Brown's running across the field and taking his clothes off, and he's appeasing the crowd for some reason. I'm like, what the hell is going on there? At first I thought it was a streaker on the field, but nope, it was just Antonio Brown in the opposite end zone running away from life and football, I guess. What's your take on what happened, Ron?
Dude needs to be evaluated for CTE, something fierce.
Yeah, and the other thing there that Christian was talking about was Ron was trying to trade Antonio Brown to me for Calvin Ridley, which got included in a deal for Ezekiel Elliott today with Ryan, and now he's stuck with the bag in his hand, and Antonio Brown is probably done.
I'll just drop him. He ain't important to my team.
Yeah.
I just knew you liked him, so I was going to try to get something for him.
Yeah, well, I didn't fall for it, so unlike the Bucks, I guess.
Should have pulled the trigger, I suppose.
All right, with that, I think we're ready to get into the news, right?
Let's do it.
News updates.
All right, let's get into the news for you weirdos that are playing your championships in Week 18. I don't know why the hell you're doing that.
Well, that's conspiracy clips. He's in a 2-round playoff, which means he's just got to win by more than 0.32 going into next week, and he should have the W if I'm correct with that.
Conspiracy, you should be voting in your league for it to end in Week 17, because there is going to be some teams resting players next week by halftime. So that is a bad situation you wouldn't want to be in. But, you know, your league is your league. I just am not in favor of your championship being in Week 18 or the last week of the NFL, depending on if we get another week in the next few years. Anyway, in our first little bit of news, Dak Prescott is expected to play in Week 18, which is important if you're playing in Week 18. And Darren Waller is expected back. What are your thoughts on these two players being back, Ron?
You said Dak Prescott?
Yes.
Oh, he was already playing. They have something they have to play for still, really, I think.
Seeding.
Seeding, which could be important. So I kind of assumed that the Dallas Cowboys were going to play their game. Right now, the only team that I'm actually worried about not playing their starters is the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, considering they've clinched.
Yeah, they've clinched first round, and they're done. Like they don't need anything on 18.
You may see them get a series or two in. I really think they're going to try to rest them because they've been banged up all year, and they're going to look to get that team healthy, almost like a bye week next week and then a bye week the following week, and look to get healthy in the playoffs, I think. The Athletic reports that Le'Veon Bell is the only healthy running back on the roster in Week 18 for the Bucks. What's your thoughts about this?
I'm shocked. I don't know what happened to Ronald Jones or Keyshawn Vaughn.
Yeah, news to you. Evaluate that on the week if you're, like we said, a weirdo and playing in Week 18, like the heckling fandom apparently. As we said, Antonio Brown took his clothes off and apparently quit, and then made it released a rap album, I guess, after. So this is just the weirdest story I've ever seen in my entire life.
It's Antonio Brown. It's a whole saga. He'll probably have a documentary at some point.
Yeah, is this the end of his career, Ron?
Oh, yeah, he's done. No one, except maybe the Jets, would sign him after this point.
I mean, I wouldn't ultimately be that shocked. So is he droppable in Dynasty?
Yep, I'm going to. I haven't got to it yet, but I'm going to.
Okay, and admittedly, going on currently, Big Brown admitted that tonight could potentially be his last game at home, and he's playing against the Browns. You see him getting a win tonight, and is this his last season with the Steelers?
This is his last season in the NFL. He's donesies after this year.
Yeah, it's been a disappointing year for him, and I think he's ready to move on to greener pastures.
Really, the past couple of years, he hasn't played at that great of a level. Last year, they started 11-0, but it was mostly the defense that carried him.
Is that going to increase the importance of Najee Harris next year, especially for fantasy teams, or do you think this is going to decrease his value because of the uncertainty of the quarterback position?
I think he'll be fine. I think it'll end up being the same because, like we said, it's not like Big Ben's really changing the game much.
Mm-hmm.
So they're still going to utilize Najee all over the place. He's going to get the volume. He'll be fine.
Okay, and what do you think about OBJ punching people in the ass again? 2022 starting off with a bang.
I don't know.
OBJ doing OBJ kind of things?
Yeah, pretty much.
Glad to see he's happy again with the Rams. So the games that have been flexed into next week are the Chargers and the Raiders being played at 8 o'clock on Sunday. And these Saturday games, I believe, are the Cowboys and Eagles is a late game, and the Chiefs and Broncos is the 4:30 game. Flexing these games into that current schedule, does it do anything for fantasy football on the week?
No, not really. I know some people like to play the where they, depending on how their team is doing, if they need like a boom player over like a steady player, they might switch someone out, but I don't like to do that. I'm just going to put the player I think is going to score more points in.
Mm-hmm.
And if I get burnt by someone who could potentially go off but could also get me 0, then I don't care.
Reports out of Texans camps are that David Culley is expected to keep his job with the Texans. Which head coaches going into the offseason are on the hot seat, you think?
Matt Nagy.
That's a damn given. JJ's been talking about that every week.
Yeah, but just because he's on the hot seat doesn't mean the Bears are smart enough as an ownership to actually move on.
That's also true.
I'm trying to think of some other bad teams that.
I mean, the Jaguars already fired their head coach.
Right, yeah.
You paid the price for that ultimately.
Yeah.
With an apology.
The Giants have already said Joe Judge is coming back. There's no way the Jets are going to move on from Robert Saleh after 1 year. No, I don't think there's a lot of them on the hot seat that are like really known.
Under or over 3?
Under.
Could be an easy year on head coaches league.
If we're not counting, the ones that already got fired, it's definitely going to be under 3.
Okay. All right. In a very, very unfortunate injury, Michael Gallup had a clean tear of his ACL, but he's expected to start next year on the PUP from what I'm hearing. What's your thoughts on this absolutely horrible injury to Michael Gallup going into his free agency year?
Yeah, it just sucks for him because he's going in to be a free agent and, he wanted to show out. He was already injured for a chunk of this year. And, I mean, he'll still get a little bit of money, but I don't think he's going to get the money that he possibly could have if he was able to play the full year.
Dude, he was going to get the bag, and now I think he's in danger of just ending up on a 1-year prove-it deal somewhere, whether that be with the Cowboys or somewhere else.
He's going to have to do a 1-year prove-it deal, and he's going to have to go somewhere where they've got a competent quarterback that can make his numbers look better.
Okay. Also, Damian Harris left the New England game against the Jaguars where they absolutely smoked them with a hamstring injury. Do we have any concern for him in Week 18?
Just if he's available, you have to play him. If not, hopefully you have Ramondre Stevenson also.
Also, Michael Carter left the game with a concussion. That is something he's going to be evaluated on the entire week. He is definitely in concussion protocol, and I would not be shocked if the Jets shut him down for the season, considering this is the last week, and they are not playing for shit. Thoughts on this?
No, if I was the Jets, I would sit pretty much everybody that mattered so they wouldn't get injured.
Okay, and then I saw Ricky Seals-Jones also had a neck injury, unfortunately, and Joe Burrow sat out the last play of the game against the Chiefs, but he seems to be fine, and Kyle Pitts had a hamstring injury. Any thoughts on any of these injuries for the last week of the NFL?
Nope. Like you said, if you're in the Week 18, just keep an eye on them, but long term, it doesn't seem like it's going to affect anything.
Okay, let's get into the weekly recap and give you a synopsis of how Antonio Brown's brain feels every week. Pretty appropriate, I think.
You 100% said weekend recap.
maybe my brain needs to rewire.
You were just talking for all the people that lost their championship game.
Yeah.
It was the recap.
All right, let's talk about the obvious game here first, right? The one that made people lose and win championships this week. The Chiefs and the Bengals, man. So we'll talk about the two stars of this game, the one who are the league winners this year. Jamar Chase with 11 for 266 and 3 touchdowns. What's your thoughts on him going forward and his evaluation for next year?
Superstar. He'll probably be drafted in the first 2 rounds of any league. If you have him in Dynasty, good job. And congratulations.
Yeah, no shit. He's going to be a powerhouse for years to come.
And this team is going to be a powerhouse for years to come.
Also, Joe Burrow, 30 for 39 and over 400 yards again, 446 and 4 touchdowns. Give me another recap on this, man.
Dude. So before their bye week, I was hearing that they were averaging like 29 passes a game.
Mm-hmm.
The past 2 weeks, he's had over like 35. I think last week against Baltimore, he had something like 40-something. Okay. Let him play.
Yeah,
He's got the weapons.
Easy to say he's probably going to be a top 5 QB, I think, next year, right?
Oh, yeah, probably.
At least
with the
for
weapons
fantasy football.
Yeah, for fantasy. I mean, I don't know, because he doesn't have the rushing upside. So I think the likes of, Mahomes will probably go ahead of him.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Allen, Kyler Murray. I think where it starts to get into play is like the Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott area. So like he could go 6, but he could also go into the top 5.
Where does Higgins fall into drafts next year? 3, I believe he was 3 for 62. Not the most solid game, but that's because Chase took over in this game. But I mean, he was playing at an elite level for many weeks this year. Where do you see him going next year?
That's going to be the problem with Higgins and Chase. It could be 1 week it's one of them. The next couple weeks it could be someone else. These guys are definitely high upside, but could also disappear on weeks. I mean, we even seen it with Jamar Chase. He had a stretch there of 3-4 weeks where he wasn't getting a lot of points.
Yep, and I agree with that. And on the other side of this game too, the Chiefs were trying to establish a run in this game. Darrell Williams had 2 touchdowns on 88 yards. Hill was held to under 6 for 40, so this really could have put a damper on teams this week if you started him. And Mahomes 26 out of 35 for 259 and 2, I think.
Sounds about right.
I mean, not the worst, not the strongest week, but it definitely was a kind of week where quarterbacks really weren't separating themselves outside of the top guy in this game. Just not league-winning upside from Chiefs players this week.
No, especially if you were in non-PPR, because Tyreek only got you 4 points if it was not PPR.
Okay. And with that, let's move on to our next game, too. So let me give you a lowdown of the game that ripped my heart out this week, and I didn't give a shit about draft order. I wanted to see the Jets beat the Bucs, especially when I was looking for the upset for about 58 minutes of this game. You would have never known that Brady threw for 410 yards and 3 touchdowns in this game, considering how long he was down and how well established the Jets were playing on offense. The rookie looked good. Zach Wilson looked all right. Braxton Berrios was having a game out of his mind, and they need to give that man an extension. But Brady did what Brady did, tore us apart. Gronk played pretty well. Grayson caught 6 for 81 and a touchdown. He's an interesting piece going into the playoffs if you're looking to play him in DFS. Johnson also got involved, 4 for 50. The Patriots, the Bucs seem to be losing weapons, especially with Antonio Brown leaving in the third quarter and just retiring on a whim. What is this going to do for the outlook of especially Gronkowski going forward, Ron?
It's almost like the exact opposite of what happened last year for the Bucs. Last year they got all their pieces back right around, going into the playoffs, and that's when they made that spectacular run. This year they're like losing all their pieces, so makes it interesting going in the playoffs. I think Gronkowski probably will have a pretty decent week 18 because he's the only one left.
Yeah, I think they're really going to have to establish a run in the playoffs and look to keep that intermediate game running well, especially with Evans and Gronk, because they're the last ones standing for this offense. I mean, Brady can establish a good rapport with any wide receiver. I mean, he's the greatest quarterback of all time, but there's still need pieces to throw to. So they need Leonard Fournette healthy. They need to keep the rest of these wide receivers healthy if they have any chance of repeating this year.
Right.
And, dude, what's your thoughts of Amon Ra Brown going forward in this Lions-Seattle's game, dude? Like, he feels like he's establishing himself as the true number one of that team.
Yeah, outside of one team on this little run he's had here of, like, just stellar numbers, only, like, one of those teams was not in, like, the top 7 for pass defense. Or the bottom 7, I mean, like, most of those teams are pretty bad against the pass. Mm-hmm. However, for like next year type stuff, you got to look and see what the Lions do. Like, who's going to be the quarterback? Are they bringing in? Do they bring in another high-profile wide receiver? Like, do they go and get Chris Godwin?
Is Amon Ra Brown you're looking to a kind of player you're looking as a trade piece to trade away in like dynasty leagues this year? Then
no, I would hold him. I wouldn't necessarily buy for him right now either, just because like you don't know the direction this team's going to go. They definitely need more wide receiver help. Okay,
and on the other side of this game, Russell Wilson had a strange stat line, 20 for 29, 236, but 4 touchdowns. What's your thoughts on the kind of game that he had? And is he a player that's starting to come off the high horse, essentially?
I don't know. I still just think he's messed up from the injury, and I almost kind of feel like he's done in Seattle. Like, I almost think he's just annoyed with Seattle.
Where's he going to be?
I don't know. I really don't. I don't want the Giants to spend the capital that it's going to take to get him. Mm-hmm. But who knows?
Is Rashaad Penny going to be the starter of the Seattle Seahawks next year, or get a bag somewhere else? 25 for 170 and 2 touchdowns?
I know they didn't pick up his 5th-year option.
Correct.
And they have Chris Carson for another year. I don't think it wasn't a lot of money, so they could easily get out of it. But I don't know.
You think he's done enough to earn a starting job?
I think he's done enough to earn someone to give him a look, but I don't trust his injury status.
Should he get signed by another team and look like a potential starter? Is he someone you're looking to potentially be a keeper in some fantasy formats?
It depends on your keepers. I wouldn't. Like I said, I think there's a very good chance he gets injured in the offseason and misses the entire year. He's already done it.
All right. And is DK Metcalf a tight end? 3 touchdowns.
No, he's just a really big wide receiver.
And what's the outlook for Lockett going into Week 18?
Same as it always is.
3 for 24 and a touchdown. Any chance he's got a boom game for these weirdos playing in Week 18?
He could. It's not like you could take him out of your lineup because
only the heckling fandom would be playing in Week 18. All the power to you guys. I'm really happy if you're playing fantasy football next week. The only thing I'm playing next week is DFS. I can breathe. I can trade in my dynasty leagues, and that's all I'm looking to do. But here we are giving you information because we are going to be a year-round show. We're going to give you creative content in the offseason and get you ready for your next season. So maybe some of us go win championships, I guess.
Maybe one of us.
DeAndre Swift didn't look healthy. 4 carries for 32. Are they just looking to keep him healthy for next season?
Probably, but it makes me angry because Dan Campbell literally came out and said they're going to, like, give him everything he can handle.
Sure, shit didn't look like it.
Yeah, exactly. So, come on, Dan Campbell. Think about the fantasy people.
Yeah, well, they didn't in the championship week. All right, so let's move on to the late-night game. This may be fresh in your mind considering it's the last game you watched. Give me a breakdown of the Green Bay and Vikings game.
Joke's on you. I didn't watch it.
You fucker. All right, so let me give you a breakdown. I
heard the breakdown. It was
the breakdown. Yeah, well, that kind of happens when Mannion is the starting quarterback of the Vikings and Aaron Rodgers is on their side trying to clinch the number 1 seed in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So Jefferson was held to 6 for 58, KJ Osborne 3 for 50, which isn't a bad stat line considering who was playing quarterback for them. Cook did nothing for you during the championship week and actually lost many people this week. 9 for 13 yards. What the fuck is that considering you should have been the bell cow? You're playing for a playoff spot and that's the performance you give out? Don't get me wrong, Dalvin Cook is a top 5 running back in this league, but he may be falling down that ladder just a little bit next year, and I think people are going to consider that when looking at him next year.
So I got a question for you about that.
Sure.
Give me your top 5 running backs as you see them right now. Like if you're drafting top 5 running backs next year.
Well, I can tell you my top 2 are probably Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry. Alvin Kamara, I think, falls into that. Christian McCaffrey, you have to, even with the injury risks, I think would be number 5 currently. God.
Yeah.
Number 4, Najee Harris.
Najee, this is what I wanted to illustrate because every year previously, it was very easy to pick out the top 5 running backs.
It's not anymore.
It's not anymore.
Who's your top 5?
I'm
just off the top of your head without
pretty much what you said. Jonathan Taylor, definitely. If I have the 101, every time I will take Jonathan Taylor.
All right,
Derrick Henry is number 2.
The man is ageless, and I believe he's going to be back for the playoffs.
He could be practicing Wednesday.
Absolutely insane. We'll see if Cam Akers makes it in there, too.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. All right, in this game, too, speaking of running backs, A.J. Dillon, I believe he went for 63 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Aaron Jones, 8 for 76. Who's the more important running back in drafts next year? And what's the outlook for Week 18 for both these boys? Both are getting rested, do you think?
I think both of them probably get rested, and they put in their third-string running back for a lot of the game.
Okay. And
they do not need to lose A.J. Dillon before the playoffs. He's the exact type of running back that wins you championships.
Who are you drafting first if you're looking at either one of these guys next year?
God, I want to say A.J. Dillon.
Dude, he's a beast in the snow. He's the Yeti Jr.
The only thing that puts hesitancy on it for me is the fact that they just paid Aaron Jones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also, if Aaron Rodgers leaves, this team is going to run the ball 40 times a game.
Yep. And you just mentioned the next name I was going to bring up. Rodgers played like an MVP in this game. Interestingly, Lazard, 6 receptions on 72 and a touchdown, to the absolute dismay of our host, Ryan Warner, who was playing against him. Is Lazard a potential play in Week 18? Do you think he could get into the lineup? They're going to rest his ass? Yep, got it. All right.
I don't think they're going to rest him. I just don't think they're going to score a lot of points without Aaron Rodgers on the field, and I don't think Aaron Rodgers can be on the field that much.
You think Jordan Love will play, though?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, and what's your thoughts on their all-star Devontae Adams?
Again, I think he'll probably sit. I don't think if he does play, it won't be a full game. But I do know that there is talks that he is going to be franchise tagged by the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, and then they're going to ask Aaron Rodgers, so how much money do we have to give Devontae Adams so that you stay around for another few more years? $20 million a year? All right, I think we could do that.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Oh, apparently we have another bot. We've been having a lot of these this week. Apparently, I am your dream .online. I would not. Oh no, I don't think that is something we can advertise. We will probably be banned. If you go to that link, I would not suggest going to that link. So goodbye, bot.
I mean, but bot, if you can, go ahead and subscribe. That's fine.
Yeah, and like the video.
Join
that like fandom. All right, let's move on to our next game here.
Don't leave us any voicemails, please, for the love of God.
We won't be able to play them on the show. All right, next game, Washington versus the Eagles. The Eagles are in the playoffs, unbelievably, after absolutely changing the game script on what kind of a team they are, going from a passing to a running team. And this week, it was Boston Scott. Who's it next week?
Exactly. Every week with this.
Are you interested in any of these running backs in the offseason?
No.
Just got to
Not.
see what they do with this position.
Yep. If they start cutting a lot of them and it goes in and it's very clearly just one of them, then yes, I would be interested. But
this is the new 49ers.
Yeah.
That is the only comparison I can think of. You have to evaluate their roster up until about a half hour from the game to see who's in the starting lineup.
Also, with the amount of running backs
you'll know what to do. Yeah, no shit. Speaking of running quarterbacks, Hurts played all right. 17 of 26, 214, 44 yards on the ground with 7 carries. Thoughts on Hurts?
No touchdowns. Killed him for fantasy this year or this week.
Well, not overall this year. I mean, he played.
Well, I know. I didn't mean this year. I meant this week.
Dallas Goedert led them with 6 for 71. Good tight end. Pretty good tight end.
I like him. And I think next year he might be better.
Devontae Smith can establish himself as the true number 1 wide receiver of the Eagles next year. He didn't really exactly show it in this game. 3 for 54.
He hasn't showed it much this year. I mean, he's had a couple good games, but I don't know.
McLaurin disappeared in this game too, only 61 yards compared to what we thought he was going to do this year. It's just such a disappointing year for him.
I was going to say, you messed up. He disappeared this year.
Yeah. Well, no, I established that, I think. Also, Heineke, we thought was going to have a game-winning drive at the end of that game. The magic was quite good for him this year, and he had a pretty good year for what we thought he was going to do because we thought it was going to be the Fitzmagic year. So, good year, Taylor Heineke.
They got to figure out that quarterback position.
Yeah, they're going to be looking elsewhere. I
think.
They
got a great run team. Their defense is solid. Like, they got to figure something out.
Is this somewhere that Aaron Rodgers could be looking at?
God, I hope not. Could you imagine if the Giants get Russell Wilson, Washington gets Aaron Rodgers, and Dallas already has Dak? Like, that would be a wild division.
All right, we're only surmising here. We're not to the offseason yet, so let's get through these recaps.
Yeah.
Rams and Ravens, give me the lowdown in this game.
It did not go the way I thought. I thought the Rams were going to just pass all over the Ravens because Joe Burrow just did it, but that is not how it happened. I think the Ravens almost came back and won this one, didn't they?
They did pretty good. Initially, Stafford played very slowly from the start. Finished all right, 26 of 35, 309, and 2 touchdowns. So not an awful game.
Also 2 interceptions, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm keeping out here, too. Michelle was their lead dog, 19 for 20. I think he went 19 for 74 in a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken. Does that sound about right?
It's in that area, yeah.
So not an awful game from him. Definitely didn't lose you championship week. Cup did what Cup did all season. He came out of freaking nowhere and was a league winner for many. 6 for 95. Odell punched people in the ass and got a touchdown this week. We'll see if that relates to a fine. Higbeast finally came out for 1 game this season. 6 for 69, and that was the extent of what he did. And I believe Huntley has a future in this league. What's your thoughts on Huntley?
He definitely earned a little bit of money. I wouldn't say he's going to get like a lot of money, but he's definitely going to go somewhere with the potential to at least compete for the starting gig.
Mark Andrews in discussion for top 2 tight end in the league right now?
Yep. Mark Andrews in discussion for the top tight end in the league right now. Strongly
considering putting a keeper on him in our league. I'm sick of not having a tight end, and I would like to secure that spot for the next season. So I understand it costs a little bit of money in our league, but I think I'm going to do that. A little bit of concern, though. Hollywood Brown numbers seem to be decreasing. Bateman had an all right game. What's your thoughts on this wide receiving core? It seems erratic.
Lamar Jackson has been out, so you can't really take these numbers into consideration. Tyler Huntley has been like hyper targeting Mark Andrews, and it's been working for him. So I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so I don't take too much into what is going on with those guys. But it could be something to look at. Deontay Johnson just scored a touchdown.
Oh, well, he's a little bit closer, I guess. Sitting by the seat of his pants right now.
Yeah.
How many points did I put him at in our league format?
Oh man, Ryan's down by 8.
Ryan needs 8 more points to be the winner league championship, and I promise you, he's going to buy a trophy that's taller than him if he wins.
There's still 10 minutes in the second quarter. He's already had 7 targets.
It's the perfect formula.
Yeah.
Watch him get no more points.
That's only accumulated to 4 receptions for 16 yards and a touchdown, but
only 8
7
more points.
targets.
8 more points and he wins. 1 more TD and it's his.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, let's move on to less fantasy impactful game. The Panthers and Saints, where there's not a ton to talk about here, especially with the Panthers. I absolutely refuse to talk about their offense. It's fucking atrocious. DJ Moore was bad. Robbie Anderson has not existed this year. Chuba got 17 carries, but he's not going to do anything really this year, too. On the other side of the ball, Taysom Hill is effective for fantasy football, but not necessarily because he's the greatest pocket passer. But he went 17 for 28, 222 and a touchdown, but he got 12 carries on 45. Any thoughts on this besides Callaway having a decent game and Kamara?
I feel like I've been saying this a lot, but these two teams need a quarterback.
There'll be a few out there this offseason,
I feel
particularly
like there's
on the
a lot of
agency
teams
market.
that need a quarterback.
It's kind of nice to feel like my team doesn't need one after last weekend's game.
Give them a year or two. They'll be right back to needing one.
Give them a week and I'll feel different. When the Bills crush them with their second string team.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Any thoughts on that game before we move on to more impactful games?
Nope.
All right, let's talk about one that's got a lot of weapons for fantasy football. The Cardinals and Cowboys. You have a lowdown on this game?
This was back and forth for a while.
Cardinals back?
I think there'll be more back if they can ever get DeAndre Hopkins back.
Yeah, that's true.
But I did see more designed runs for Kyler Murray, which was nice.
Yeah, he looks like he's healthy now. So 26 to 38, 263, 2 touchdowns, 9 for 44. And Kirk, I believe, was his leading receiver for 6 for 79. Christian Kirk viable for next week, or is he getting benched?
No, he's viable. They'll probably still playing for seeding. So,
And who the hell is Antonio Wesley? 4 for 30 and 2 touchdowns?
I don't know.
I wouldn't play him next week.
Nope.
Is he a stash on Dynasty? Probably not.
Maybe. I mean, depends on how deep your benches are. He could be a sneaky play for DFS next week, though, because he'll probably be really cheap.
Ooh, interesting. The senior in the wide receiving room, AJ Green, was effective, 3 for 74. He's been doing that pretty much all season. Chase Edmonds, 18 for 53. I believe he got a little bit of passing work in this game. All right, play for next week.
Only if James Conner misses.
True. And Dak Prescott was all right. 24 for 38, 226, and 3 tuggers.
Yep.
And this is the game that we already said Gallup tore his ACL. That's very unfortunate.
Yep.
That is going to make the 4th wide receiver on the roster. I've got him listed right here.
Cedric Wilson.
Cedric Wilson, a very interesting piece going forward for next week, especially for DFS where he'll be a little bit cheaper. He's already proven this year that he can be effective when getting a little bit of work. So he's going to be an important piece for fantasy football to everyone playing next week and everyone playing DFS into the playoffs.
Yeah. He could be.
And Schultz has been proving to be a very effective tight end for the Cowboys this year.
Yep.
He's a free agent. Do you see him going elsewhere and being even more effective in the offseason?
Being effective is 100 dependent on where he goes.
But he'll get paid?
But he'll definitely get paid. I think the Cowboys would be stupid if they wouldn't throw some money at him and hope he takes a hometown discount.
Discount double check?
Yeah.
Cool. Any other thoughts on this game? All right, let's move on to General Mills' team, the Texans and the 49ers, where Cook went 7 for 61 and a touchdown. For some reason, Burkhead is leading them in carries, 16 for 47 And the general himself went 21 for 36 and a touchdown. Does he get another chance to start for this team next year?
I think that all depends on how things fall. I think he could if something doesn't happen that they absolutely are in love with, he definitely could get another chance to start.
Okay. And do you want to explain to me this strange game that Trey Lance had? In the first half, he looked like he was going to do nothing in this game, and then he exploded in the second half and looked highly effective. Is he going to draw the start this week for the 49ers to potentially play through the playoffs, or do you think they're looking to load Jimmy G and get him healthy for the playoffs?
Are they in the playoffs?
They are. Currently, they are in the playoffs.
Currently, but they can get knocked out.
Right. They play the Rams next week, and if they win, they're in. But they can also get in with a Saints loss, I believe.
Okay. I don't know. I still think if Jimmy G is healthy enough that they'll play Jimmy G, but I don't foresee Jimmy G being healthy enough.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, Trey Lance will probably be a decent start. He's got that running upside.
Elijah Mitchell established himself as the number one running back of this team next year?
Probably, but this is also 49ers, so who the hell knows?
I mean, in this game, he got 21 carries for 119. That sounds like a bell cow back to me. But as you said, Kyle Shanahan has a different game plan every freaking week. And for all you know, Samuel is going to get 21 carries next week. You just don't know.
Yep.
Ayuk, 4 for 94. He's so hard to know when to play now.
Yeah, he's definitely up and down. He's definitely the third, maybe even fourth person they want to be using in this game. They want to run the ball, then it's Kittle, then it's Debo, then it's Ayuk.
So do you see him as a wide receiver 3 next year with a lot of upside?
Yes. Yeah.
So disappointing considering how much money and Fab I
So,
spent in our auction league for him.
Are you going to double whatever his price is next year too, or?
No. I may be in the bidding for him, but it'll be at a much more basement bargain price.
I will not because I'm keeping Debo at $2. So.
Yeah, doesn't mean you wouldn't want to bring in his teammate if he was like $1 though.
No, I really wouldn't. No, I don't do that.
Debo 3 for 63 and a touchdown. Incredible year.
Last I checked, he was still like the wide receiver 3 or 4. So yeah.
Is he top 5 for next year?
No, probably not top 5.
Okay. Any other thoughts on this game?
Nope.
All right, moving down the list because there is a shitload of games this week. Denver and Chargers. Oddly enough, Locke looked like a proficient quarterback this week. 18 for 25, 245, and a touchdown. Not bad, not great. They're going to go somewhere else next year. Gordon and Williams looked awful in this game. There was no running game established from this committee. What's this running game look like for next year?
Hopefully one running back less. Because if it's Javonte Williams, I'll be all in, especially because Aaron Rodgers will probably be the quarterback.
Noah Fant on people's radars for next year, 6 for 92 and a touchdown, or is this just
if Aaron Rodgers if Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback, all of those players are on people's boards.
All every single one. Receivers.
Yep. Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and Noah Fant will all be on someone's team come after the drafts.
Okay, and the fantasy star, one of the fantasy stars of the year is Justin Herbert, 26 of 31, 232, 2 touchdowns. I mean, what is there to say about him? He played well even in matchups where he was thought not to do well. The kid is going to be a star in this league.
Yeah, he is. Chargers got a really good pull on that one in the draft.
They did, and they've got one hell of a balanced running back who is good on the ground and in the pass. Eckler, 17 for 58 and a touchdown. Decent in the passing work, too. 3 catches. 3 for 50. Was it 34? 3 for 34, I think.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, so good year for Eckler, too. Top 6 or 7 running back, I think, going into next year.
Yeah, I mean, I touted him up all offseason, and I'm glad I did because he definitely performed like I thought he was going to.
Mike Williams, 3 for 63. Where are we drafting him next year?
I think he's also a free agent.
He is, maybe.
But,
I kind of got a feeling he resigns to the Chargers, though.
He'll probably resign with the Chargers, but he's still hard to draft because he is injury prone, and he has been very up and down. I know he had a stellar start to the year, but I don't know. I don't think it's going to be – I don't know. I don't think he's going to be as fantasy relevant last year or next year as he was this year.
Any chance Justin Jackson cuts into Eckler's work at all next year, or is that just a fan of?
No, I think they'll just do it like they normally do. Like if Eckler's in there and fully healthy, they'll play him. If Eckler's banged up or out, then they got a pretty decent backup in Justin Jackson.
Fair enough. Now let's move on to another game. Raiders and Colts. How the hell do the Raiders keep winning games down what feels like not a lot of weapons? But when Jacobs plays well, they seem to win, and Carr's doing enough to win these games. 241 yards, a touchdown.
Derek Carr is a good quarterback.
He's underrated.
This man has been devastated by never having wide receivers.
Although Zay Jones has established himself, I think now. 8 for 120 and a touchdown.
You got to remember, he was playing on an MVP caliber season when he had Amari Cooper and who was that other wide receiver? Michael Crabtree. He was playing in an MVP caliber season, then he broke his leg. And then he lost Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree. And he's had nothing since then.
Well, I wouldn't call him to Renfro nothing. He's pretty good.
He's had nothing since then. Hunter Renfro was a slot guy.
He hasn't had outside wide receivers.
Think about when he had Henry Ruggs earlier this season. He was playing really good.
Mm-hmm.
The Raiders were like 5-0, 6-0 at one point this year.
And now his big outside guys are Zay Jones and Brian Edwards.
And Deshaun Jackson. Like, come on.
I mean, he's got a beast of a tight end, but that tight end hasn't stayed healthy as well.
Right. So, like, people give Derek Carr a lot of crap, but he's never really good for fantasy. But he is a good football player.
Jacobs is having a middling year up to this point. Not bad, not good. He's doing what Jacobs does. 16 for 33 and a touchdown, 4 receptions for 17.
That's the kicker. That's the kicker.
When he plays good, that team rolls.
No. When they involve him in the passing game, because if you remember his first couple of years with John Gruden, he like never got targeted.
Mm-mm.
Ever since John Gruden left, his targets have been way more consistent, and he's been more involved in the pass game. I think they see that going into the offseason. He might be one of my top picks for like end of the first round, beginning of second round next year.
It's kind of funny because I really see him as a running back too, and that's what I see as his ceiling. He's not someone I've ever been highly interested in.
No, I think he gets way more. I want to see what coach they bring in.
Mm-hmm.
But if they bring in a coach that I think will start utilizing him in the passing game more, I'm telling you, he could finish as a top 12 running back next year.
I see him more in that 24 range, but we will see. Let's move on to the other side of this ball. So as the Colts roll, they only roll with Jonathan Taylor. 24, 108 and a touchdown. Hilton got a touchdown, and Carson Wentz sucks for fantasy football. What's your thoughts on the Colts?
It kills me that they might not make the playoffs. Absolutely kills me.
I think they've clinched, haven't they?
Nope. The Titans clinched the division.
Correct, but I think the Colts have clinched a spot.
I think they needed to win to clinch the spot.
Can you bring that up? So I believe the win and in game is the Chargers and Raiders.
I could have swore that the Colts were not in it yet.
I think they are. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they are.
Come on, computer. Of course, I can't find it anywhere on the frickin' playoff picture. That's why.
Stick with us, folks. Ron is a
Playoff
senior
picture.
working his computer over here.
You continue with your talking.
That's what I do best.
All right, clinch the playoff spot. Nope. In the hunt, the Colts.
What's their scenario? Obviously win and in, but what happens if they lose?
Right now, they are – all right, so right now they're technically in. They're not clinched, though. They're number 6 right now. But it looks like, well, if the Raiders win next week,
Mm-hmm.
they're in. I think what they really need is the Raiders to win, or they need to win, and then they need Raiders to lose. Because right now they're both 9-7. So if the Raiders win and they win, oh no, because I don't know. They definitely need to win. Because if they lose,
the three teams running for a spot right now are obviously the Los Angeles Chargers, the Raiders, and the Colts. Correct?
right, and then Ravens are 8-8, and Steelers are 7-1 at the moment.
So
if they win this game,
there's still a few other teams behind, is what you're saying, and there's a fuckload of scenarios that we're not going to do because this is a fantasy football show. But what you're saying is they're not in, and Jonathan Taylor needs to carry them on their back next week. So if you're playing in Week 18, Jonathan Taylor is a good play because they're going to run the ball.
Oh wow,
with him a shitload. What?
Wait,
what do you got?
How many teams from each division make it into the playoffs?
7 teams each side, AFC and NFC.
All right, so I'm looking at this, and it says clinched a playoff spot, and it shows 7 teams, and then it says 1 playoff berth available, and it's got the 49ers in the hunt. Oh, okay. No. I see what it's saying. There wasn't a 6th one there. Okay.
I think you need to get off that page to come back to fantasy football.
Keep talking. I'm talking.
All right, so with that, let's move on to our next game then, too. We talked enough about the Raiders and Colts. As we said, Taylor makes that team run, and nothing else is irrelevant for fantasy football with the Colts this year.
Truth.
When sucks for fantasy. So the Dolphins and Titans, the Dolphins won 7 games in a row and then probably got kicked out of the playoffs by the Titans, who are now in the driver's seat. Unbelievable after losing Derrick Henry for the number 1 seed in the AFC.
The Dolphins are 100% out of the playoffs.
Is that head coach of the Titans not a dark horse for head coach of the year?
He should get head coach of the year.
He's done a marvelous job with the Titans.
Yeah. Losing your best 3 players for like multiple games, and you're still winning games, still number 1 in the AFC. All they have to do is win next week. They win, and they clinch a first-round bye. And then they're going to get Derrick Henry back.
I mean, they've done wonders with Deontay Foreman, who has had a injured-riddled history and is finally establishing himself too. He's established himself to be a player in this league now. 26 carries for 132 and a touchdown. And
the only running back that I've ever seen come back from an Achilles injury. Now, granted, his Achilles injury was several years ago. Mm-hmm. So if that's the thing where it takes that long for you to fully be able to come back, but also maybe no one gave him the chance.
Yep. Waddle had a disappointing game, 3 for 47. He's more of a wide receiver 2 going into next offseason, depending on what happens on free agency, obviously. Mm-hmm. But he is a very good young wide receiver. Gesicki, it'll be interesting to see where he goes because he's a free agent. I kind of think the Dolphins will try to retain him.
I think so too.
4 for 51. Where do you see him as a tight end for fantasy football?
You could do worse. You could definitely do worse. I think he'll be one of those perennial top 10 people. Mm-hmm. But as we often say, it doesn't really matter if you're top 10.
No, because 5 to 10 could just be a touchdown weekly.
Right.
A.J. Brown had a little bit of a disappointing game here, too. 2 for 41. Is he viable for, as we said, the weirdos playing in Week 18?
Yep. A.J. Brown's in. You got to roll with him.
And what's your thoughts on Tannehill?
He's a great game manager.
Does that mean anything for fantasy football?
It means you really don't want to play him for fantasy football.
Fair enough. All right, so we've got 3 more games to roll through, so let's keep going.
Let's roll it.
All right, so Falcons and Bills. What the fuck happened to Josh Allen in this game?
I don't know. I kept looking at the score and be like, how? How are the Falcons even making this a game?
They won the game. Somehow.
Wait, the Bills did, right?
Yeah, unbelievably, the Bills won this game somehow, and Josh Allen was horrible.
The Bills ended up winning 29-15, but the score was so much closer than that for so long.
Oh my God, 11 for 26, 120, 3 INTs, but he rushed for 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's the perfect cold weather quarterback because even when he's playing awful, he keeps you in games.
Yeah.
Luckily for them, the running game was working, and Singletary is establishing himself unbelievably as the workhorse here. I mean, looking at his numbers here.
Last couple weeks.
23 carries on 110 and 2 touchdowns. I talk so much shit about this running back by committee. They got the nickname for me, the shitty committee, and I carried it across the league. And it's just not adding up to it anymore. They're not a committee anymore. They trust Singletary. Is he their number one guy going into next year?
I want to see what happens in the playoffs,
Mm-hmm.
and then what they do moves-wise in the offseason.
Okay, and what do you think about the Bills receiving core from this game? I'm assuming non-existent considering he only had 120 yards.
Yeah, I mean, you play your ones you would normally play next week if you're in the championships.
Okay, and Kyle Pitts, a lot of people have said he had a disappointing rookie year. I don't believe that. He got over 1,000 yards. What's his outlook for next year?
Probably about the same. He needs to score more touchdowns, and I don't know if this offense can do it.
We'll see what they do in the offseason. He went two for 69 in this game. What's going on with Patterson, too? It's just another bad week. Was it 9 carries for 28 yards, I believe? Is it just because it was a cold weather game? Is it because he's been bad for 4 weeks and they figured him out, or what?
They figured him out. Teams figured him out. They finally got enough tape on him, and they figured him out. And let's not pretend like Cordero Patterson has been like this awesome player for like his entire NFL career. No, the dude's 31 and has finally had his one good season. Like, they were just tricking people. And people are like, oh, this is what they're doing. Okay, we got it now.
The Falcons running back next season?
Maybe, but I think they definitely bring in running back help.
I 100% think you're right there.
I can't wait for people to way overdraft Cordero Patterson next year.
You're going to be throwing him up in the auction block early, aren't you?
Oh, hell yes. Oh, yeah.
Note to self, don't bid on Cordero Patterson above $2. Okay, and with that, let's move on to our next game where the Patriots absolutely stomped on the Jags. My God, Mac Jones looked like a fantasy relevant quarterback in this game. He's been good for the Pats, but not necessarily greatly fantasy relevant up until just a few weeks. 22 of 30, 227 and 3 touchdowns. Is this just because he played the Jags, or is he starting to establish himself?
Just because he played the Jags. I'm really glad you gave away Mac Jones for Zach Wilson. That was a hell of a trade because I don't think Mac Jones is going to be fantasy relevant ever.
Zach Wilson impressed me in that game.
On a consistent basis, I should say. I think he will have his fantasy relevant games, but he's not someone you'll be able to, I get to start Mac Jones. You know what I mean?
We'll see. JJ's got a different opinion on that. So
Zach Wilson, I think, will.
I hope to God you're right. I made the trade. So
well, just because Zach Wilson's going to have the rushing upside.
And I think they're going to bring in another weapon for him this year, and they've got some weapons there for him.
Jamar.
He's been an incredible quarterback over the last, I believe, since
last 3 weeks or so.
Yeah, he hasn't thrown a pick.
Yeah.
He literally
he's
hasn't
played
thrown a pick.
really well the last 3 weeks.
He's been at 15 interceptions? What can you bring up his numbers right now?
Now, only if he would target Michael Carter out of the backfield more.
Well, the problem is he had a concussion, and they were handing the ball off to Michael Carter, and that was working as opposed to the passing game early. But, we can't have nice things in this world like beating the Bucs, so what are you going to do there? Anyway, let's get back to the game at hand. We were talking about Mac Jones. Speaking of rookie QBs, Trevor Lawrence looks like shit because this coaching staff doesn't know how to use him correctly. 17 of 27, 1 touchdown. Finally threw a touchdown. First one since October, but 3 interceptions. So, mum's the word. They need a new head coach, and they need to revamp this offense for him and get him a damn offensive line.
Who am we talking about?
Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, they need to do something.
Treadwell went 6 for 87. He's playable in Week 18. He will not be playable next year. They are going to move on and look to get some other players. Agun Bawi Ali, which I did not pronounce his name right, was viable this week too. 9 for 36, 2 catches for 32 and a touchdown. Should he be their starter next week too, he will be viable. He's a player trying to establish himself in the league. The Jaguars got nothing to play for next week, so they may just march him out there. There's no one else really to march out there. So you can play him in Week 18 if you're looking to, and he could be a decent value in DFS. Other running backs in this game, Stevenson took it over for Harris, who looked very good early, 35 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had 17 points early in this game. Looked like he was going to have a monster game. Hurt himself early. Stevenson took over, then went 19 for 107, 2 touchdowns. Myers did good in the passing game, 8 for 73 and a touchdown. Bourne 5 for 76, and Wilkerson for 4 for 47 and 2 touchdowns. So all the Patriots feasted outside the tight ends.
Yeah. All right. So for Zach Wilson, since coming back, he came back from injury week 12 against the Texans.
Yep.
So we'll take that one out because first game back from injury. Since then, so since week 13, he's thrown 1 interception to 4 touchdowns.
Yep.
In 3 of those games, this one he had 33 rushing yards. In 3 of those games, he also had a rushing touchdown. So, yeah, definitely doing pretty good. 200 yards. Not the highest passing rating. But
last one, I believe he had a passer rating of 89, and this is the kind of team that's going to look to establish a run, and this is how the 49ers team did it, and their offensive coordinator is going to play in that similar style. They're going to establish the run first and then pass second. So you're going to see these 200, 250-yard games, I think, going into next year too.
Yeah, the last 3 weeks he's been at least an 80% passer rating.
He's definitely finding his stride, and that's impressive considering the lack of talent he's got in the wide receiving core with all the injuries they've got going on.
Let's also realize that it looks like he's been sacked 36 times this year.
Yeah, not great.
Total of 11 interceptions and 8 TDs, but like we said, most of that was the beginning of the year. So I think he's got a good future.
I hope you're right. All right, and let's talk about the really inferior and ineffective fantasy football game of the Giants and Bears. Give us a synopsis, and I'm sure you're ready for the offseason.
Yep, I'm ready for our 2 probably top 10 picks. I know the Bears keep trying to ruin our second pick, those assholes. So bring on 2022.
Glennon even have a job after this year? 24 yards to
Glennon doesn't even have a job next week. He's out for the rest of the season. He's having surgery or something.
What's Barkley's outlook for next year? I mean, 21 carries on 102, so it's not a great rate.
If the man can stay healthy and the team can stay healthy, look, what I really want them to do is, since they've already said they're bringing Joe Judge and Daniel Jones back, with our first 2 picks, obviously I don't know how the class is right now, but you go double offensive line.
I can tell you right now there's a perennial center that looks very much like a Nick Mangold build. He may actually be a better prospect than Nick Mangold was. And there is a kid out of Georgia who can play 4 positions, but he's looking like a top 4 pick currently. So there is a good.
Good. The Giants have a top 4 pick.
Well, the Jets might pick him before then.
So the Giants could use every position outside of left tackle because the one we drafted 2 years ago has actually been playing pretty decent this year. But every other position would be fine.
Okay. And what's the outlook for Montgomery going into last week and next season, and Mooney going to next week and last season? Mooney went 7 for 69, a touchdown, and Montgomery scored 2 on the ground.
I think they're really good players to have on your team. I think this team is going to bring in hopefully an offensive-minded head coach. Their defense is still solid, and if they can get another wide receiver in there, because I believe Allen Robinson will be gone, and get a full year with Justin Fields, I think both Montgomery and Darnell Mooney could be good players. Darnell Mooney will probably be a running back 2 or a wide receiver 2. Mooney will be on the cusp of 1 and 2 for running back.
Okay, Andy Dalton played in this game, but he's irrelevant going into the Bears' future. So let's cover Justin Fields really quick. What is his outlook going into next year? Let's end this on a good note for the shit king, J.J. LaPlante.
He'll probably end up being a top 10 just because of his rushing upside. That'll do a lot. Like I said, if they bring in an offensive-minded head coach that can scheme some things for him, you've seen it. Tyler Huntley, Taysom Hill, these guys that have rushing upside regardless of their passing can get you a top 10 week and can finish top 10 if they're doing all season. You know what I mean? So I think he'll probably end up top 10, top 12 at the end of next year.
And with that, folks, we have run through this hella long recap. At least it felt like a hella long recap. We did it, guys. Guys, if you like what you hear on this show, even with long-ass recap videos, which are needed, like and subscribe to the videos. Join the Heckling Fandom. Go and see what we got at www.garbagetimef.com. And yes, that was one too many W's, which I will do quite often because I
put the correct amount of W's.
W. Ron, where can you find our fucking show?
Oh, why you gotta ask me?
Do it.
Apple, Spotify, Simplecast, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Google Podcasts, at our website, www.garbagetimef.com.
Look at that. You can't even say it.
I said www. I just couldn't get the garbage time out. Instagram at Garbage Time Fantasy Football, Twitter at garbage_FF, or Twitter at garbage_time FF. Jeez, we got to get a better handle for Twitter.
You can also find Garbage Time Fantasy Football with that exact name on Instagram, where you can leave us messages. If you're too shy to leave them on here too, we answer your questions live on the show too. I think we're ready to quit like Antonio Brown. Ron, anything to say before we get out of here?
Yeah, we're ready to quit. I'm just not going to take off any of my clothing.
Yeah, that's not something I want to see here, and I really would not like to get our account banned.
Oh, wait. You almost forgot it. Make sure you go over and check out our sister podcast, Garbage Time Presents the MMA Podcast.
Where someday we'll have a show again.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Good night. And Antonio Brown, find a job.
Yeah.